stopped charging by appointment. And I get a lot of questions about this from other professionals, how I run my practice if I'm not charging by appointment. And it came through, some group channels that, people wanted to find out more. I've been doing this for years, and I wouldn't advocate for doing it any other way. Yeah, there are some use cases to charge by appointment, but by and large, if you're health coaching, especially, physical health coach like I am, where I'm taking people from injury all the way to, pre-performance or pre-fitness, helping them reorient their lives. If you truly want to get really good results with people, then you have to stop. Well, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. But transitioning away from charging by appointment will be massive for you. This presentation is not short because the idea of this, of me getting online, going live, and sharing how I run my practice is to help an industry and help you as an individual, as a practitioner, yes, we want to get better results with our clients because that's what we're doing all of this for. Build a better business that is, not better, a business that allows you more free time, a business that allows you to make what you're worth and isn't self-limiting, where you feel like, oh, I got to scale and I got to do online work to be able to be a high value practitioner. You can be a high value practitioner starting tomorrow. It's how you structure your business. What we do to help people is extremely valuable. And I'm going to just show you how I do it. I probably make, twice what this industry standard is. But I also have the liberty to work with people over a long period of time because I don't charge by appointment. When people work with me, they have to sign up for a year. Sounds like, well, especially if you're a physiotherapist or an athletic therapist like me, kinesiologist, whoever, that you can't work this way. You absolutely can work this way. I've been working like this way for years. It's massively rewarding. The journey I'm going to bring you through is, first of all, we're going to talk about why. It might seem obvious to you, but there are some definite things that we need to talk about there. We're going to talk about how we actually attain results. And we all know these things, but it's massive on, the things that we need to do to be able to attain results. Let's just briefly talk about them. Then I'm going to go through the mechanics of how my business works, why it works that way, how I set up my contracts, where I find my clients, how clients enter into my system, and the whole thing. I'm going to share it all. No holds barred, and no expectations. Again, I'm giving people a few minutes to, get online here and make sure that we're recording. So for all of you that are just hopping online now, this is a recorded session. We're talking about how to build you call it a membership-based or long-term contract-based physical health practice. It's long been practiced and thought that, you have to bill by appointment. I've gotten the best results in my life when I transitioned away from billing by appointment. I no longer work with people short-term because the reality is, you and I both you don't get results short-term. You might decrease somebody's pain, but you're not solving the problem. And by and large, we've been allowing the person with the least education in the room, which is the client, to dictate how we run our businesses. You don't go to a lawyer or a mechanic or an accountant or anybody else that's viewed as a true professional, a doctor, and tell them what you want. You tell them what you're trying to achieve. They tell you what you have to do to achieve it. It's the same thing with us. We're highly trained professionals, whether you're a physiotherapist, athletic therapist like me, strength coach, I do that as well, kinesiologist, personal trainer, and if you're in the nutrition space, whatever it is, you're the one with the education. You should be dictating the terms. This is how we get results. If you want to get results, this is how we're going to work together. And that's how it works. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through my entire business. Why I work the way I work. This is going to be the first part. It's not a short presentation. So if you got, no interest in transitioning your business and making twice what you're making now, you have no interest in working less hours and having a higher value, you're perfectly happy where you are, that's totally fine. I'm not telling you that you have to change your business. I'm telling you how I've done it. I probably make twice what the industry standard is, and I get better results. I have a lighter schedule, and you'll all see why, because I'm going to share everything that I do with my business so that you can learn from it and develop your own business in this style. There is an easy way to slowly develop this over time, transition it. You don't have to change overnight. And there's a great way to market. Right now, the public is ready for this. So, be ready. I have a presentation that I'm going to run alongside this so that you can see what I'm talking about at the same sort of time. Again, if your attention span is low, want to watch this later, it'll be recorded on social media. It's going live now, but you'll be able to see the recording on the same place you're seeing this right now. And I'm going to take my time to go through it because I'm sharing literally everything, and it can make a massive difference to your business. So this is all about long-term contracts in a physical health space and not charging by appointment. Oops. For those of you that don't know me, which is probably the majority of the people, I started my career as an athlete in rugby and martial arts when I was young. I got into the health space as a professional, as a personal trainer. I was certified with the NSCA as a strength and conditioning specialist in 1996, 97, something like that. I started working in 96 as a personal trainer. And through there, I went from there to working in varsity. I did all my internships in varsity. I worked in varsity. Then I got, when those contracts ended, I went into the public sector. And this was the first time as an athletic therapist. Nobody knew exactly what our jobs were at that point, because our jobs were really in varsity and with sports. Somebody gets injured, we're the people that run out, help them, rehab them, get them back to playing again. Well, when I got into the public space, I had to make my own path. That path was to help people recondition beyond, that standard therapy model, which is walk from the couch to the fridge. I was used to, from working in varsity, to getting people back to a level of function that allowed them to run out onto a field and play rugby, play football, be competitive at a high level. And I saw that in the general public space, there are a lot of people that are really trying to be active. Most of the athletes in the world are not professionals or Olympic level people. They're everyday people that just love doing these things. That's what supports all the high performance level stuff that's out there. So I wanted to help them do that. It was I still, at that time where I'm billing by appointment and doing all that, but it was the beginning of my career. I got recruited back. So the place that I worked at actually got sold for us. So I opened my own place. We started with a bit of a subscription model there. It was my first insight into building a hybrid pay by appointment subscription model. It was the first time we were sort of messing with that sort of stuff. And then I got recruited back into varsity. I worked there as the head athletic therapist and head conditioning coach simultaneously. I was hired as a conditioning coach. The head therapist wasn't there. I was doing both jobs. I got recruited back out into the public sector in a high performance triathlon studio, where I was really driven to bring the athlete experience, the elite athlete experience, to the general public. The elite athlete experience, if you ever watch this, it's like somebody gets injured, you're watching this, any kind of sport injured, and inevitably there's somebody who has the conversation, oh, that guy's going to get an MRI, today, because the level of service is just higher. Well, why is it that we aren't entitled to that level of service? It's not because we're getting paid millions of dollars to do what we do. It's because our industry is not set up. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be affluent to be able to access business like this. They just simply didn't exist because we're our own worst enemies, for good reason. The whole health industry for us started when we were in crisis. If you're going to die, go see a doctor, but fast forward, 50 years or 80 years or more, now we have a tremendous amount of knowledge around health and health span and all this sort of stuff. These aren't acute intervention needs. These are long-term needs that take long dedication to achieve. So we need to start transitioning our business to suit this. That when I was in back into the public space, this is when I really started to work on figuring out exactly how to do this. And it might seem obvious to a lot of you as well, just create a membership. There's insurance to deal with. There's a bunch of other things. There's how do you get people in? It wasn't as simple as it seemed, but I created it. And from there, I moved. That business needed to move. I brought my business to my house, which is, so all of you that are health practitioners, worried about not having the space, I moved it to my house. I had a very small room with a treatment bed and a few things and a hallway to do exercises in. And that was the start of that business. And, when I purchased my next place, which is actually the area I'm in here now, I have a 400 square foot facility that's attached to my house. And it was by design because I knew I wanted to run this business this way. And for, the last 12 or 14 years, I have been running, call it a subscription-based, contract-based business where people that, they show up with back pain or shoulder pain or knee pain or some sort of challenge. And the idea is they work with me for a year. And they're super happy to sign up for this. They never knew it was available before. It's been very rewarding for me. On top of that, morphed out of this was a need for technology. So I actually run another company as well that we developed a startup in. And that's, is part and parcel of what I do with this business as well, as I provide the technology that people need to be able to track things and whatever. So why do we do what we do? Number one, our business is set on reduce the pain as quickly as possible. But our jobs as physical health practitioners is not just to do that. So if it was just give somebody medication, it'd be great, fine. But it's not. We have to restore function and recondition them back to a state that is useful. And in this day and age, we're talking more and more about affecting health span. So how long they're able to stay active and healthy for. One of the best instructors I ever had in my early years, was first present to the class, said, "You guys aren't magicians. You're not gods. You're not healing anything. What you're doing," and the way he stated it was, what you're doing is creating a conducive environment for healing. Then, because we were talking about injury rehab at the time. What I've morphed that into in my own head is creating a conducive environment for progress. So whether we're doing early stage rehab, where we're removing limitations, we're dealing with swelling, we're dealing with range of motion, all these types of things. Or we're at the other end where we're doing performance training and all that sort of stuff, or fitness training. We are creating an environment to allow the body to adapt naturally to the things that we want to adapt to. And our jobs as professionals is to create that environment. We aren't doing any of the work. We are doing all of the advice, which is why it's so important that we understand what our jobs are. If you're doing 80 or 90% of the work, you're never going to have long results, because the person, if they don't buy into doing the stuff that you're telling them to do, then it's going to be a waste of time anyway. Because if we're going to achieve results, there's only one way to achieve results. And there's impossible to argue this in any means. If people don't stick to exercises that we tell them to do, there won't be progress. And if you're not prescribing exercises, or you don't have a mechanism to prescribe exercises, you do these things, and then they go and see another person that prescribes exercises, then everything you do at the beginning will be lost. It's great to gain range of motion in something. It's a complete waste of time if you don't own that range of motion. The only way you will ever own that range of motion is through physical exercise. Mobility drills, these are all great. These are all like full movement. Pilates became really an important staple in our lives for a lot of people, because it worked on strength at end range and all these types of things. So whatever the mechanism for exercise is, if you're doing manual therapy and you're creating a conducive environment for healing, you need to be prescribing exercises. As an end user watching this, what to expect from a professional. If you're working with a professional that isn't advocating for exercise prescription that follows up from the treatment that they're doing with you, or they're not, giving you exercises, then you should see somebody else. Early in our careers, we're often bombarded with this whole idea of the timeline. It's the timelines is they're in large part unknown. You blow your knee, blow your MCL. For those of you that know what that is, are you back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? We've seen them. We don't really know. We have an educated guess. That's fine. Or you have ACL reconstructive surgery. Are you back in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? We've seen all of those too. Yes, there are some generally accepted guidelines, but they're guidelines and they're very much unknown. It is much more reasonable to look at this as a path. Pathway has definite steps that you have to go through. And if you're working as a professional, when you're working with clients, the number one thing you can do with your clients is explain it in terms that the client understands. Remember that the client doesn't understand, isn't in our world. Just like you're not in the lawyer's world. You don't understand the things that motivate them and excite them. And you're, a statistician. Everybody's like, oh, that's really boring. Not to the people that do it, Well, it's the same thing for us. They come in here, they don't know the things that we know. We have to help them at a certain scale understand what the path is, because humans only do one thing. It is what is their idea. Humans don't do anything that isn't their idea. So just because I think this is important for somebody doesn't mean they're going to do them, because it needs to be them that thinks that it's important and them that understands the path. Okay. So this is a concept that I work with. I show all my clients this. It helps them understand what stage they're at, what it's going to take to go from where they're at, and what the pathway is to where they want to get to. And I've always found it a great tool. And you can use this when you're explaining it to your clients, or if you're an end user, you should understand this. So this pathway, this line, at one end of the line is injured, incapacitated, as close to dead without being dead. The other end of the line is high performance. So it's the highest end of high performance, which isn't health, by the way, but it is the highest end of human performance. We can all agree that we're all somewhere on this line, right? It's really important to understand where you are on this line. What's interesting for me about this is that when somebody's going through injury rehabilitation, when they get about 80% rehabbed, they stop being able to justify paying per appointment to continue this process. They're feeling better. They feel like they should, take things on their own, even though they have no education in it. And it's every time they come in and they have to pull their wallet out, pull their card out and pay you, it's something, it hurts, right? So we see a massive drop off in and around this line. The thing that people don't understand, a lot of practitioners don't even understand, is that the other end of the line, the other red line that says fit, this is the minimum requirement to enter into basic fitness. This is, a lot of people think that's like, oh, okay, well, as soon as injury rehab is over, then we're going into fitness. That's the natural progression. It's not. The next phase is we have to make sure that everything's working properly. Because why'd you get injured in the first place? Especially if you have back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, foot pain, whatever it is. If you didn't get hit by a car, well, these things just appeared. Why did they appear? They appeared because something isn't functioning properly. And then it wore away at you. And now your body is giving you pain as a signal for, hey, something's wrong. We need to correct this. So if you've been in injury rehab, you're a physio, AT like me, or anything else, then the first three stages are very well known. Injury rehab phase 1, injury rehab phase 2, phase 3. And we talk about it, and what needs to happen in those three phases. From the fitness line on is, everything from fitness to high performance. What I've built a career on is what is in between. For me, what is in between is what I call reconditioning. And a bunch of us in the industry now call it reconditioning. There are 5 phases to reconditioning. So reconditioning phase 1 through 5, RCP 1, whatever. I'm going to just briefly go through the things that happen at every stage. And if you're an end user or a practitioner and you want to share this information with your clients, it will help them to understand where they are on the pathway versus where they actually want to be and some of the steps that it's going to take them to get there. So these are all the steps. I usually present this one at a time, but this program doesn't do that. Anyway, injury rehab phase 1, let's get rid of the pain. Injury rehab phase 2, IRP 2, let's restore the range of motion in the joint, make sure that everything is available. IRP 3, when I was taught, it was like injury rehab phase 3 was this big, long zone of everything from restoring function to high performance training. It's just simply not true. IRP 3 is to restore function. And by basic function, we mean walking from the couch to the fridge. That's what that phase is for. Once we can do that without pain and do basic functions without, if you're at a shoulder issue and you've ever tried to pour, milk or some sort of coffee or anything like that, or turn a doorknob, you know how sore that is. No, you can do these things without pain. Okay, that's good. That doesn't mean everything is working fabulously, because why did the problem come up in the first place? Well, the reconditioning phases are really, really important. RCP 1, we look at imbalances in the body. Do we have movement imbalances? Like, can you turn easily one way, but you can't turn easily the other way? That sort of imbalance is going to affect your body. Did you sprain your ankle when you were young and now you have some sort of back or hip imbalance? We need to look at these things to make sure that you're not walking around with imbalances, because this is what's happening to people. You're walking around with imbalances and then you're doing things that are appropriate for past the fitness line. You've joined a class, you do whatever training, you're just trying to get fit and healthy. What happens? People get injured and they get kicked all the way back down to the other end of the line. And we see this all the time, especially with back pain. The stats on back pain are just unbelievable. 4 out of 5 people will have major back incident in North America in their lifetime. And it's needless. It's because people are walking around with imbalances. RCP2 is, okay, can you get into the postures that we want you to get into? This is without stress. A lot of people can't even just attain and have control of the postures we want to see. This is a phase to work on. For some people, it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. RCP3 is about adding stress to that mechanism. Biomechanical stability is all about, you call it core training or whatever it is you want to call it. You add stress to anywhere in the body and it's going to affect its ability to stay stable. Can you still have control of all those postural mechanisms while you're under stress? RCP4 is typically more what we see in a gym setting. Before we get to doing squatting or lifting or anything like that, is everything ready? Are we just basically too weak for it? Or should we do some work, some preparatory work, strengthen tendons, do all these types of things before we enter into things that are more complicated? And RCP5 are I work on the 6 major skills. There are more skills than those 6. But if you don't have these 6, then you shouldn't be doing things that are more complicated. So squatting is one. That's the ability to get under something and lift it up. Lifting, reaching to the ground and pulling something up. Pushing, so generally the ability to push things away from you. Pulling things towards you. Pressing, so pressing things up over your head. And pulling down or pulling yourself up towards something. Those are the 6 major skills. You don't need to be super fabulous at them or super strong. You just need to be able to do them, and do them with a little bit of resistance. Perfect. Once we can establish those, then we start on intentional training. That is more centered around, getting to the goal that you want. What do you want to be good at? What do you want to be able to do? Is it for general fitness? Okay, let's broaden the horizons of the skills that you know so that they're reasonable and they can keep you healthy. If you want to go to high performance, then we get more sport specific. So understanding all of those steps is really important. And if you talk to your clients about, are you walking around with latent injuries? Well, then you're in IRP3. So you're nowhere near ready for fitness. We have steps we need to go through. Now, does that mean it's months of work? No. I've had people come in and, I just want to get training again and I'm going to check RCP1 through 5. Maybe we do that for a week or two. Be like, okay, we're good to go. Maybe it takes 3 months. Maybe it takes 6 months. We don't know. Every person is different. They come with a different history. They come with different injuries. They come with different imbalances. We need to take it step by step and work along the pathway. What's really interesting from a business perspective, because this is all about how I run my business, is we have built a $1 trillion industry on marketing to the smallest of the population distribution. Because, the worse the injury gets, the less people there are. The higher the level of performance, the less people there are. Where most people are between this 80% line and the fitness line. They are walking around with imbalances. They're walking around with aches and pains, especially above the age of 30 or 35. What's really interesting now is in social media, you're starting to finally see much more conversation around health span. People are more concerned about their health span. So yes, it's easy to market to people that are injured or people that are chasing high performance because they have a high need right now. Well, finally now people are queuing into the fact that exercise is great, it's really good, and health span is important. Walking around with injuries and walking around with aches and pains and imbalances isn't good. They want to feel like they can do things. We can market to them now. And it's great because the way you'll see how my business is made, you're marketing to a very few amount of people where the largest pool of people is. It's the best way to build a business. So when it comes to the skill sets that we have as practitioners, you have to look at it like, okay, what are my skill sets? You don't need to have all of these skill sets, but you have to understand that our clients are coming to us as amateurs in the health space, and they might be coming to you for something very specific, but you're a professional in the health space. You could provide them access to all of these various things, whether you do them or not. And that's how I built my business. And I'll talk about it a little bit later. But when I built my business, I looked at this vitality pathway, which, I actually came up with it later, but I looked at it like, okay, where am I capturing my prospective clients, and what am I doing with them? What do I ethically feel is right to do? So the way you build a long-term contract business or subscription membership business, whatever you want to call it, is you have to offer a section of the pathway. If you go from IRP3, IRP1, it's more difficult to do because when people are really injured, it's much more intense. I don't recommend necessarily starting at IRP1. If you want to do early stage rehab, that's fine. That's good. It's absolutely necessary in our industry, but it makes it difficult to do a long-term contract business because these people are hyper-focused on just get out of pain, right? As soon as you're into IRP2, we're restoring function, you can start having conversations about, these people about like, what's the end goal here? And for me as an athletic therapist, I always looked at the end goal because I had to hand these athletes back to a coach who was begging to have them back early, or deal with the athlete and make sure that they were ready because they just wanted to hop out onto the field. I needed to know what the pathway was so that I knew what I was doing with them. And then I built my business around that. So my business, the way it looks, is I take people at IRP3. If they're in IRP, they have early stage rehab, I don't do it. I refer out. And when they're starting to progress, then I take them on and I move them through to pre-fitness. The whole idea of my program is that when they want to enter into fitness, that they're fully prepared, they understand their bodies, and I'll talk about what the benefits are for the business, for the end user, and how I construct my business that way. But you have to pick part of the path and create your business around that. So how do you get a person who is, maybe not in crisis or not really like jonesing to get back onto the field or do high performance training or whatever? How do you get them into long-term contracts and make it their idea? I'm not selling anything to anybody. I am merely offering a service that they are more than happy to join because they can see the pathway. And that's what we're going to discuss. So I'm going to go through all the exact steps of the customer journey. So if you have a business, your physical health business, whatever it is, you should have a customer journey. And your customer journey should start with your avatar, who it is where you're capturing them. So I'm capturing people when they have latent injuries, things that are driving them crazy, and they're sick of feeling this way. They need to, they want to be better. So I'm definitely 35 plus. That doesn't mean I've had lots of people and still now in my business that are younger. But by and large, my avatar is the 35 plus, facing some sort of challenge that they want to overcome, but they also have in their minds, even if they don't talk about it, where they want to get to. So I get them over the challenge and I get them to where they want to get to. So this is the customer journey to get them on board. And your customer journey should always include pre-signing up and post-signing up, right? So all of the things they need to do to get to signing a contract to work with you, and then all of the things that you deliver after you start working with them. That's what your customer journey should look like. So the first thing, I get a referral from some source, whether it's from social media, whether it's from a friend of theirs, or, over the years, I typically get a referral, like some sort of, text message, the way my system works. A friend of mine told me to see you, my name is this, whatever. Okay. So the first thing that I do is what we call a pre-qualification call. It's a 15-minute phone conversation. So when it comes to customer journey and what the customer is expecting and over delivering, which is really important. This is probably the first time that's happening to them that the practitioner that they're reaching out, that they've been told to go see, is reaching out to have a phone conversation, not a sales pitch, a phone conversation as to what their issue is, how I can help them, and if it's appropriate. And I tell them that. I tell them, it's like, oh, yeah, let's just get on the phone for a few minutes. What's a good time? I offer them a couple times. We get on the phone. I preface the conversation with the idea of this phone call is to find out what the major issue is. If it's appropriate, I want to make sure that my skill set can help you. If it's appropriate, lay out what my basic plan is, and then discuss if we want to go further. During this process, I ask them what the major issue is. I try and get a sense as to where they want to go. I lay out my entire plan. So I have a 12-month program. We'll get you through to this, and we go from here to here to here to here to here, and this is the end result. I specifically ask them, is this what you're looking for? Because I want them to see value in it. If they don't see value in it, that's totally fine. Not everybody is going to see value in it, but if they do see value in it, and you'd be amazed how many people on the phone say, I didn't even know this was possible, like available anywhere, because by and large, it's not the service that I offer. If that sounds amazing to them, I also tell them the cost of the program and ask them, is that in your budget? Because the next part of my process is really important that they say, yes, that's, even if it's a stretch for them. And, some people have said to me in the past, like, well, the cost of a program like that, it's only for elites and affluent people. I've had people in my practice that obviously couldn't afford it, but saw that the value of what they could get out of a program like this was much better than anything else they could get, signing up for a gym or whatever. And we'll do cost comparisons at the end. It's not more expensive than, working with a personal trainer, and you're going to get much more service out of it. So I ask them, is that good? Perfect. If it is, if everything aligns, then I bring them in for something that every one of us as physical health practitioners should be doing. And it's so rare in our industry, for a free consultation. Yes, a free consultation. This isn't a waste of your time, because the whole idea of this is to have another look at what they say is going on. Very often, because they don't understand what we understand, what is actually going on is only a small portion of what they could explain on the phone. I need to get the full picture. I need to understand, and I need to do, even if it's just a mini assessment, I don't promise to do a full assessment or anything like that. I get an idea of what's going on, and I do it in terms that they understand, so that when I say this, like, okay, so this is the crux of the problem, and this is where we're trying to go. Is that correct? And it's something I learned in the past. If they say to you, that is right, versus you are right. If they say, yeah, you're right, that is a counterfeit, yes, and you've done it wrong. They need to say that is right, because that they own that. And we can go into that, but that's a whole other thing. But it's something that I'm waiting for in that conversation. We discuss the plan. I try and give them something real on that day, even if I'm not charging them for the session. They could walk away and never come back again, but I want to give them something real, so that it wasn't just a discussion and a waste of their time to come down and see me. It was, it's like, I think you should do this. I've had people come in and not taken them on contract and say, like, listen, okay, I want you to do this, this, and this, and let me know in the next 3 to 6 months how things go. And I want you to see this person, or you said you wanted to try that class. That's perfectly fine. You can do that, and it's going to help you. I've done that numerous times. This is true value to them. They will refer to you other people they know, even though they never came into your service because you did that. I discuss what the plan is, if it makes sense. That yes, everything aligns. It gives us a chance. It gives me a chance to get to know them. Gives them a chance to get to know me. Do we want to work with each other? I've had a few people in my business that I've said, nope, I'm not doing that. And that's really important. It's another thing that we could discuss later, but you need to have the ability to do that. If you're charging for that session, you won't have the ability to do that. So I do that. If everything aligns, sign up. We sign up today and we take payment today for the next, we set up the next appointment, we set up day one, and day one is when the contract starts. So we have the contract. We need to build trust into that contract. Something that I get pushback on is offering a guarantee. Well, we can't offer a guarantee in a health business. Yes, you can. Because what are the chances that somebody that is appropriate for your skill set, that you assess properly and you prescribe things and they actually do them, what are the chances they don't get results? Right? Short of getting hit by a car, which interrupts the process, they're going to get results. Of course, you can guarantee results. My guarantee to them is, listen, the first 3 months, you do everything that I tell you to do, and you can prove to me that you do everything that I tell you to do, and I have a mechanism that they can prove it to me. And we're not getting results, I'll give you your money back, because obviously it's me that's the problem, and I'm perfectly fine doing that. How many times has that happened? 0 times. 0 times it's happened because it's a virtual impossibility. People need to get results. And they're going to, if they do the things you tell them to do, if what they present to you is appropriate. Now, I've had people come into my business, that were in crisis and tried to see everybody, and they had a condition that I knew I couldn't guarantee any results. And said to them, like, okay, outside of my regular contract, I might be able to help you with this, but I'm not really sure. If you want, we can try this for a couple of months and see how it goes. Yes, that's a whole other service, but it's not the core of the service that I offer, and it doesn't happen very often. Maybe it represents 1% of the people that I've seen over the last 12 years. Like I said, the other thing that the guarantee is good for is accountability. So there's 2 types of accountability, which we'll talk about, but just keeping them accountable for the time being, or talking about that, is they call up, oh, I'm not going to make it tomorrow. Okay, you're not going to make it to our assigned appointment that we both agreed on. So you understand that voids your guarantee, right? See you tomorrow. Without a mechanism like that, you just won't have the buy-in sometimes, because we need to make sure that the people we work with see us as professionals, and we're going to hold them accountable. We take payment. And then if you're at the end of a profession like I am, where you can offer insurance receipts. Insurance in our industry right now is this thing where, I'm reliant on my insurance, and if when my insurance runs out, I'm going to stop coming, because they place this reliance on it. When you work the way I work, it actually completely reverses the whole thing. They're committed. I'm in. This is what I want to do. Oh, what about insurance? Well, for insurance purposes, we need a date and time that we met, and I'll assign a value to each one of those. It can't be more than what you've already paid me, because that's illegal. But at the end of every month, I can give you a receipt that has the times and dates that we met and the assigned values, and you can submit that to your insurance, and whatever you get back, you get back. And in their mind, it's like, oh, I could get some of it back. It's completely reversed the psychology of the purpose of their insurance, which is great. It's great for them. I can't tell you, when the contract starts, over deliver. Make sure they understand we don't count appointments. We're going to do everything we need to do when we need to do it. If, because I do injury rehab, somebody's got back, their back is sort of stuck. And first couple of times we meet, oh yeah, okay, we get it unstuck, we get them moving properly. And I tell them, if it ever gets stuck again, you make sure that you let me know, because you need to do your exercises. And I need to know that you are unstuck when you do your exercises, because that's the whole purpose of it. Because when we don't count appointments, somebody could come and say like, I feel like I'm stuck again. Okay, well, we'll just come in, for 10 minutes and let's just see what's going on. If it's going to take me 10 minutes to get them back to normal again, and they can go off on their day and go and train, more power to them, more power to the system. And we're off and running, and I'm not nickeling and diming them. So how valuable this is, and what this takes to do, it takes less clients. And we're going to talk about client load after, but you're going to have the freedom to be able to do this. And if this is something that they've never had exposure to, so for them, it's like, really? Wow, okay, that's awesome. Do everything in your power to ensure success. Number one, hold them accountable to do their exercises. Number two, if the exercises you're prescribing aren't working, you can discuss that with them, because we're in a long-term contract. Say like, oh, okay, so this stuff didn't work, we need to make adjustments here or whatever, without fear of like them dropping off, like, oh, they didn't progress from this session to this session, so now they're mad. It's like, no, they didn't progress because we've tried a few things based on highly educated guess, based on our assessment that we did, which we should all be doing. I know a lot of kinesiologists and strength coaches and stuff aren't necessarily doing assessments. You absolutely should be doing assessments, objective assessments that your clients understand. It's a whole other thing, but anyway, there are going to be times that we prescribe things once in a while that's just like, oh, that didn't work the way we wanted it to work, so we fine tune and adjust as we go. And that's totally fine. I don't know how many times I say this in a week, but do assessments that your clients understand, because humans only do what is their idea. So if they don't understand it, it doesn't matter if you think they should do it. It only matters that they think they should do it. And then track everything. So one of the reasons I started that our health tech company was to be able to track the things that I needed to be able to track. And it just didn't exist. But now we get the technology into their hands in an affordable way, so that we can track things on a regular basis. But if you're not tracking things, it makes it really difficult. Part 5 is availability. All of my clients have my cell phone number and my email address, and I tell them, look, like if you forget an exercise, you better contact me, because I don't want to wait 2 weeks and find out you didn't do exercises for 2 weeks because you forgot it, when you could have just texted me. It's like, well, I don't want to be a pain in the butt. This is one thing I tell my clients all the time. If I can't answer, I'm not going to answer. B, if I think you know the answer, I'm not going to answer. And C, if you're desperate for help, I'm going to get on and have a discussion with you, because that's what this service is all about, is helping you get to where you need to be. If you honestly need help, I'm there for you. Don't worry about it. They have access to, my calendar, I control their appointments on my calendar, because I'm the professional. Again, we don't need to have the person with the least education in the room dictating the terms of our work. It's me that's providing the advice as a professional. So when should we meet? Well, that information is coming from me. Okay. And here's what's been really rewarding for me in a number of different ways running my business like this. First of all, the ability to become the center of somebody's health journey. This is very valuable to the end user. They're really looking for help. And I always picture it's like, if they're looking at profile pictures on a wall, and it's just like there's an acupuncturist there, and an osteopath, and a strength coach, and somebody that works on mindset, and then there's a nutrition program, and it's all jumbled up, and they don't know what to do. For us as professionals, we have them in 2 boxes, and we know who's doing what for the most part. Well, we can build a business. We don't need to have all of those skills. We work on the skills that you're really good at, and then build resources, have templates, have partners you work with, and have network partners outside of your business that fill all of the spaces that you don't service. And what you can do, there are two things that come from this. One is you can offer this service to your clients so that they have a sort of one-stop shop where they trust you and they can really work with you. Two is you can now build your knowledge base, pick, your continuing education, all these things on the things that you love to do and filling the spaces in your business slowly over time that you want to be able to fill. So that's been a real bonus. You're not wasting your time doing continuing education courses that aren't going to help you build your business. So this is just a list of all of those different things. Again, you could screenshot this or something like that, but these are all the different things that our clients are looking for that we can help them with. So here's how my contract works. And you don't need to have this exact contract, but this one works really well. First of all, it's 12 months. It's based loosely on meeting every second week. I don't babysit repetitions, do exercises with them, train with them, do anything like that. They have to train on their own because that's what they're going to need to do when they stop working with me. They need to train on their own. They need to find training partners and do the things, and yes, you can have a system that has group training. And so go off into group training. Maybe you do group training. I used to do, coach small group training, and I would bring people from this program into group training. It's a great thing to do. But for this particular program, I meet with them generally every second week, and I'm the one that controls the schedule. I don't count appointments. I take a 30% upfront payment for the contract to get started, and then the other 11 months are monthly. I've had people want to pay me outright for the programs and ask for all kinds of different things. I've done them. I don't recommend it. Do it this way. It functions much, much better this way. I also want to know who they worked with in the past, if it's been successful, so that I can, talk to the other practitioners they worked with and set up whatever we need to set up. So if I need them to see an osteopath or I need them to see an acupuncturist, I can contact them and say, like, listen, okay, so this is exactly what we're doing. This is where our limitation is right now. Can you help with that specific thing? And and then we can have a discussion back and forth, and it's really helping the client out by these multiple services. They could be in the same physical area, or they could be outside. I've sent my clients outside to go see a colleague of mine that's an osteopath, and said, like, okay, here's the limitation that we've hit. My skill set isn't good enough to create a conducive environment for progress here, but I believe yours is. Can you help us out with that? If they say yes, can you slip them in early so that, instead of them seeing me in 2 weeks' time, they're going to see you. And then I'm going to tell the client, don't worry about paying for that. I'm going to pay for that because they're not seeing me. So we're taking some of the money that we've set aside to go and make sure that they're getting the service they need outside, or even, and if it's a shared clinic with multidisciplinary people, you share it like that, and you don't have to nickel and dime. Again, track everything and have a discussion around the two-way accountability to build more trust with the client. So yes, I'm going to hold you accountable, make sure you do your stuff, but also I'm going to be accountable when we track everything. If you're not progressing, and the problem is me, well, I'm going to be accountable for that, and we're going to make sure that we get through that process. So, and here are all the promised benefits from this that you want to articulate these things to the end user, to your prospective clients or to your clients. I'm going to resolve the injury completely. The things that you're dealing with right now, and that's why I do the free consultation. What are we dealing with right now? Yeah, we can resolve that. We're going to resolve that completely. I'm going to teach you how your body works and why it works that way. I want you to understand fully what's going on with your body and be really connected to it. We're going to teach you to train consistently. We're going to be, not for a few weeks. This is going to be a 12-month program. By the time you get to the end of the 12 months, you'll be training on a regular basis for months and months and months. So you're going to be used to that part of it. I'm going to change your posture forever, not for a few weeks because we did a little bit of an intervention. We're going to change your posture forever so that everything functions better. You're going to have access to professional advice on a regular basis, just like an elite athlete would. That's a huge one for people, to be able to contact you on a regular basis. And by the way, too, people that have already been through my program, they still have access to me. They still, call and say, oh, what should I do about this? Yeah, I'll give them advice. Absolutely. No problem at all. I'm going to teach them how to adjust throughout the year. This is a huge thing for people. There are times of the year for a lot of people, it's like, oh, they hit this 3-week period where I'm working 90 hours a week and I can't fit my exercise programs in, because it shouldn't be. All high-level athletes have recovery periods. Let's just concentrate on recovery and doing the things that you need to do during that time period. Now, if your entire life is 90 or 100 or 110 hours a week, well, then maybe we should have a discussion about that too. I also, one of the things that I offer is the book of you, so the book of them, that we start as a physical binder. In that physical binder, we have copies of everything. So it's like customized warm-up, mobility drills, rehab exercise programs, regular training exercise programs, nutritional advice, sleep aids, anything that we need, we keep in an organized fashion in the binder. At the end of the year, they have this book of all of the things that they need. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, what we do with the book at the end of the year. One of my promises is that they'll never need me in the future. Do I still have clients that contact me because things happen throughout the year or throughout the years? Absolutely. But by and large, they should know what they need to do. And one of the other things is I want to make sure that they can go off and do any activity they want to do. You want to go join a CrossFit or play squash or do this. You understand your body now. You understand your limitations. You understand how to get to these places. If you need more advice, that's totally fine. But I want you to understand more than any other coach you'll ever understand yourself, more than any other coach you'll ever work with. And so that you know what your limitations are and you know what you should or shouldn't be doing and expecting of your body. So how this plays out in phase one, the first couple of weeks, yes, I meet with people 1 or 2 times a week because there's a lot of stuff to go through. Once we get through that period, I do a progressive. This allows me to do a progressive assessment. I used to do a full biomechanical assessment right at the beginning. I realized over time, when people are sticking around for a long period of time, I don't need to do that. I can progressively assess this, give them a few things to do, assess that, give them a few things to do, allow them time to adapt to what's going on, and fill things out like that. So that works really well. Also for me, because I can do manual therapy stuff to create a conducive environment for progress, I'll do some manual therapy stuff to get them going and making sure that everything is where we need to go. From there, in phase 2, this is about 40 weeks of the program. We meet every second week. They always have 2 running programs. I'm either updating a program, maybe I'm doing manual therapy every second week. So when I give somebody an exercise program, I'll take the full hour time to teach them the exercise program so that they understand it completely. I don't want them to walk away and say they forgot. I force them to take handwritten notes. And then I force them to teach the program back to me so that I know that they understand it. Very good mechanism. But then they have to do that exercise program 8 to 12 times. So, it might be, 4 weeks or 6 weeks before they get through that, depending on, I've given them cardio stuff to do, and I've given them mobility drills, and they're, traveling and all these other types of things. There are going to be times that you meet every second week where you don't have things to update. This is when you talk about nutrition, logistics, and stress and hydration and all these other things. And because we're working with people for 12 months, we have lots of time to discuss these things. I've had people come into my business and be like, I'm so stressed out. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. Let's sit down and talk. Okay, it's logistics. How are you fitting everything in? Where are we finding space and time? What are we doing? What about breathing techniques? Let's calm down, right? Let's learn how to do that process. Not every session needs to be a new exercise or manual therapy or anything like that. You're doing everything you can to help people progress and become healthier and have a healthier, a longer health span. Phase 3 is the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, ideally, is to going through the binder. I reorganize the binder for them, get rid of the programs that they'll never need again. And, so I have cardio and I have their warm-ups and I have their exercise programs. I put them in order for them to be able to now restart the whole program on their own. I make sure that it's like, oh, do you remember these ones? And do you remember those ones? And do we need to take videos and do stuff like that? And this takes a couple of appointments, and we do it right at the end. And you'll notice that this doesn't add up to 52 weeks. Because there's going to be vacation time. There's going to be time away. There's going to be things that interrupt the process. It's totally fine. My programs are based loosely on, meeting actually 42 to 46 weeks out of the year. And because that's the reality. We're not going to work every second week for 52 weeks. It's just not going to happen. And it's not necessary. So that's how the whole thing plans out. We also talk about, in phase 3, we talk about the results, where we started, where you're at, and we track the whole thing so that we can really see a big difference between where they started and where they're at now. And then we talk about what the future plan is. The future is like, what do you want to be able to do? How do you plan for that? How do you, make sure you go from where you're at now to where that is? We have discussions around that. Sometimes that's led to like, you know what, we should do a couple more months to get you prepped for that because I can see that coming. Whatever. Perfect. Good. That's totally fine. So let's talk about the revenue model behind this whole thing. And so a lot of people, so PHP just stands for physical health practitioner. So this is the revenue model for contracts for working for somebody like me. So I put 3 different contract costs there. So $3,000 for a year, $4,000 for a year, or $6,000 for a year. So if they're paying, this is what they're paying for the 30% up front, and then this is their monthly cost, okay, for the program. Now, if you want to just start this business slowly, that's totally fine. It's actually how I started it many years ago. Let's say your target is to have 10 clients like this. Here's the big difference between this type of contract, this type of work, and working based by appointment. The average physical health practitioner is seeing 60 to 120 unique clients a month. That is an astounding number. Now, the people at the 120 end are working also with long-term disability, probably, and it's pretty insane. But even if you're 60 or 80 unique clients a month, and those clients only stick around for 2 months, typically it's 4 to 6 weeks, but let's say an outside window is 8 weeks they're sticking around for. That's a client acquisition rate, if you're at the low end, 60, of 30 clients a month to keep yourself full all the time, because your drop-off rate is going to be that. So if you only have space to see 60 or 80 clients a month and they're dropping off that quickly, now you need a massive marketing engine. That's why social media is like, you need more clients and more clients and more clients. You don't need more clients. You need clients to stick around so that we can actually get results with them. So if you want 10 clients like this, your acquisition rate is 1 a month. 1. And you'll actually have too many clients. And it's ideal if you do 1 a month, because by the time the contracts end, they're refilling themselves throughout the year. How many hours a week of work is this? 5, maybe 6 hours a week with preparatory work. And So if you're charging $3,000 a year, you're working with 10 clients, it's extra 30 grand for 5 hours a week. Not bad. If you're at the other end, you're getting $60,000 to work 5 hours a week, $60,000 a year. It's very valuable to the end user, and you're getting paid what you're worth. So let's boost that up to 25 clients. You got 25 clients, your acquisition rate is 3 a month. And you're working, maybe this is 12 and a half there, based on twice a week, but maybe it's 15 or 16 hours a week, right? This is not, it's not an overwhelming amount of work. And if your contracts are $6,000 a year, it might sound like a lot, but we're going to do the cost comparison to personal training in a second. It's not a lot. The last one didn't come up. I missed a slide. So I do have a slide for 40 clients. If you're my full, when I was absolutely full, the no more room for clients is 40 clients a year. So that acquisition rate is 4, right? And it's even a little less than 4. So, and I'm working 20, 25 hours a week. And if there are $6,000 contracts, that's $240,000 of revenue a year. That's pretty good lifestyle, good value, really getting good results with people. It's worth it to me. So let's do the cost comparison. People that are paying $60, $80, $110 a session to work with a personal trainer right now. So I know one place they're undercharging. They're $80 a session if you buy 40 sessions at a time. So, and if they're working with a personal trainer once a week, that's $4,100 a year. And what are they getting out of that? One training session a week. No education, no book, no contact, no resources, no nothing. They're not getting anything but one training session a week. Let's go to 2 training sessions a week. Why is this still thinking about this? Go to 2 training sessions a week. At the 110, and there are people that are paying this $110 bucks a session. That's an $11,000 contract. And you might think this is ridiculous, but I was getting paid these rates in 1998, 99, where people were paying me $1,500 a month to train with them 2 to 3 times a week. So yes, people are paying this now. These are contracts for the affluent. I had people paying me, 30, 40 grand a year for these contracts. They weren't contracts I liked because they were, babysitting contracts essentially. So I dropped them. I dropped them pretty early actually, but you think they don't exist. I've had people in my business that obviously couldn't afford a huge amount, but saw such value in what I could offer them that they were willing to pay it for the year, especially for the benefit that they got at the end of the year. So don't discount that. The value of something is not the cost of something. And a $6,000 contract sounds like a lot, but it's nothing. It pales in comparison to somebody paying to work with a personal trainer on a regular basis. When you market to this, number one, market to an emotional problem. Not that we're going to get you to exercise and all that sort of stuff. We're going to change your life. We're going to change everything that is going on right now in you. You're afraid this is going to happen. You're sick of the pain. These are the things that we need to be talking about. Sell a journey and an outcome. Just like this presentation is a journey through, like, why are we doing this? And how are we doing this? And what are we achieving? This is what we need to be talking to our prospective clients about. I did a workshop like 14 years ago that I'm still getting referrals from. And I talked about these types of things. I talked about, like, I know this is how you get actual long-term results. And I got a referral 2 months ago from that. So, do a workshop on healthspan and talk about healthspan on Facebook. Yes, right now there are people transitioning, especially the 35 plus, who are more concerned about what's going on with their bodies. They're not feeling great, and their friends aren't feeling great. And, they're moving away from the endless scrolling of these other platforms and moving back to platforms that have a little bit more discussion, which are things like Facebook. Because your acquisition rate needs are so low with a contract base like this, you have time to do the discussions and to help people and to be online and be present and be authentic. So don't be afraid to do that. In my opinion, the future is health span coaching. Health span coaching is, first of all, it helps more people, and it really makes a big difference to their life. It is uber valuable, and you will be compensated accordingly for it. And it's a win-win situation for everybody. You need to get a hold of me. You have questions, you have comments. I am open as I am with all of my other clients. I'd love to help more people out. And building a business like this, it's very rewarding. And so you can reach out by email, text me, do whatever, and I'll get back to you to the best of my ability. So I hope this helps. I hope that you saw value in this. I know it was long, but I really wanted to be able to share everything with you so that you can understand how this business works and why it works that way. And that's the end of my broadcast for today. So have yourselves a wonderful day. Whatever happens to you that's wonderful today, try and pay it forward to somebody else. Super important. We need to make this place more wonderful for everybody. I truly believe that. So I hope this helped, and we'll chat soon.